So to start off with, the 4 new abilities are called Recall, Fuse, Ultra Hand, and Ascend. Besides all having really cool names, they also all seem like they will have an abundance of uses within Hyrule, even if we can't really think of some of them now. Recall allows Link to send large items, like rocks that have fallen from the sky, physically back in time, allowing him to easily reach some of the Sky Islands, but also being useful in combat like we have seen in previous trailers. Fuse can be used to literally fuse any 2 items together. This can increase damage, weapon reach, durability, and more. It can be used not only on weapons, but also shields, swords, even arrows. You can fuse almost anything with anything, it seems, and some items have unique uses, so the possibilities are endless. Ultra Hand moves objects and can hold things together, like to craft boats, ships, and stuff like that, which will be useful to have. It's like Magnesis, but a little cooler. Ascend allows Link to pass through almost any place with a ceiling, even pretty large gaps. This could honestly have infinite uses. Now to get onto the gameplay, literally right off the bat we can see plenty of noteworthy details. It's worth noting that the HUD of Breath of the Wild seems to have not been changed much, as we can see a very familiar minimap, temperature and sound gauges, the weather, and the horse riding controls. The minimap shows that Link is near a stable, which we can see pretty soon after when he rides by it. There are also 3 numbers on the bottom of the map representing Link's XYZ coordinates, as we can see the last one going up as he climbs up higher. In the top left we can see the ability that Link has equipped, which is currently Fuse, along with the options to choose a weapon and shield like in Breath of the Wild, but also a little apple icon which replaces the arrow selection into being able to now add items to his equipment using Fuse. One of the new towers is also in the background here. We can also see Link once again sporting the Zonai tunic, along with what appears to be a Zonai bow. Continuing into more of the gameplay, we can see that the landscape of Hyrule has undoubtedly changed in more than a few ways. The most obvious being all the rock debris that is all over from the Sky Islands. As he continues riding, we can see another new tower in the distance, along with what appears to be some sort of new structure on top of the hill. Not to mention a group of the new Zonai enemies, the Constructs, showing that they will spawn on the overworld too, and not just within the Sky Islands. They look like the soldier constructs that we see later, but might be different since their horns seem to be a little larger. As Link rides past the stable, which now has smoke coming from it, likely to be easier to spot, the riding music from Breath of the Wild is playing too, showing that some music might pass over. We can see a Korok asking Link for assistance. We know that the Great Deku Tree seems to be gone this time around, so maybe we need to assist the Koroks into finding them in Tears of the Kingdom. There is also something seemingly spraying a purple smoke or mist here behind the stable. Near the stable is also an area with a handful of craftables, likely so that Link could build something with Ultra Hand. One of the spirals of green energy is once again shown here too, and now that we have seen these near a stable and a town, I think it's completely fair to guess that these might act as Tears of the Kingdom's fast travel locations, similar to the roles that the shrines played in Breath of the Wild, if not being the shrine equivalent entirely. As we can see, some have not yet begun glowing with that green energy throughout the gameplay, which could be something like the undiscovered orange shrines. It also looks like Beetle makes a reappearance. There's also a Bokoblin camp across the river, showing that the overworld of Hyrule this time around will likely be a bit more dangerous if even a stable is surrounded by this many enemies. It now cuts to Link climbing, and we can see that he has the Recall ability equipped. He has also not yet discovered the map of this area, showing that the towers will most likely serve almost the same exact purpose as they did in Breath of the Wild. After using Recall on the rock, we can see yet another tower in the distance, along with 2 of the large Zonai ground arts. After landing on this decently small island, a dragon can also be seen. Although hard to tell which dragon it is, I believe it's quite likely that they will be a pretty common sight around the Sky Islands. That's something I actually made a whole video about if you'd like to check that out. From now on in the gameplay, Aonuma mostly stays on the same set of Sky Islands, one that we have actually seen many times now, and I made a video about that too a while ago, and how this is very likely that this will be a tutorial area for Tears of the Kingdom, so it makes sense that this is where they would show us the most gameplay of. There isn't much else to point out here besides how we can see a plethora of Sky Islands in the distance, with some covered in snow, as we also see later, showing that the climates/biomes of these islands can vary. After Link jumps down a little bit, we can see a tree with what looks like possibly a new style mushroom here, which wouldn't be surprising as later on we see the puff shrooms, so there's probably a handful of new nature collectibles. We know some make a reappearance, like the Stamella Shroom that we see later, showing that some items will also come back, but likely with new uses, similar to the key size. The temperature on the Sky Islands is also a little colder than the overworld, which is some nice little attention to detail. We can also get a much better look at the construct here, showing that they are held together by the same green Zonai energy that it appears most of the Zonai machines are held together by, and that likely gives Link his new powers too. Nintendo has actually shown official images for a construct, showing that they can have a whole suite of weapons, including the fire-breathing dragon head that we have seen in a previous trailer. This one honestly looks like it could be a version besides the soldier or ranger, but it's hard to tell. After being defeated, the construct drops 2 new items, a soldier construct horn, which could probably be used to increase damage done by an arrow using fuse, and a Zonai charge, which resembles an ancient core and could have similar uses, or it could possibly be used for recharging the fans that we see later in the gameplay. As Link walks towards the boulders, we can see the central building on this set of islands along with some other stone structures. This is where we see Link use Fuse for the first time. After this, a lot of combat is shown using the Fuse ability, where it shows how we can fuse items to arrows. There are some new items shown here, like the Korok Frond, possibly a new item to assist the Koroks in this game. We also learned that Ice Choo-Choo Jelly can be used to make ice arrows, meaning fire and other elements will likely do the same, including some items that could even explode like bomb arrows. We can catch a quick glimpse of another dragon flying above here too, who appears to have a new color scheme, showing that new dragons might be making an appearance. When scrolling through his items, we can see another type of construct horn, likely not from a ranger construct as it doesn't really match up, so maybe the larger horned constructs on the overworld. A green and white ball of something can also be seen, not sure what it is though. In the background of this next shot, we can see what is likely one of the new shrines in this game that has not yet been activated. We can also see some of the grinding rails that we have seen before, which seem to be spread across these islands, likely for faster traveling. Also, on the minimap, we can see that Link is quite close to a fast travel icon, likely of a shrine, except this one has been found or completed, and of course it is conveniently never shown, although we do see some stairs leading up to it. More of the railing can be seen behind Link here. Next to the tree stump here, we can see a wooden stick along with an axe head, the two of which can be fused together, which we actually saw a bokoblin wielding in a past trailer. This is also the first time we're shown Link fusing something to his shield, and if this simple puff shroom can be this useful, the combinations of items able to be fused is likely endless. There is also some sort of insect here that Link has not yet caught. In this next shot, the gameplay covers the Ultra Hand power, and we can see even more of the railing along with many icons on the minimap. There's what looks like a shrine, a battery icon, possibly a shop of some sort to get better batteries, and 3 icons that represent caves, 2 of which have check marks, meaning Link has likely explored them already. When he turns around here, we can actually see the entrance into one of these caves. When Link uses his Ultra Hand ability here, we can see the small islands in the background glow the same way as the fusible objects do, meaning that we may be able to move certain small islands like this and even fuse other objects to them. The customizability and exploration in this game will be unlike anything we have seen before, honestly. The fans that are then showed off are able to be turned on by hitting them or the thing that they are attached to. They each have their own battery life, but also use it up faster the more of them that there are, so it's something that can likely be upgraded or recharged pretty easily, like with the Zonai charges that we saw earlier. One of the ranger constructs can be seen here, along with a new plant called a stam bulb. There's also a vase icon on the map, likely another shop or something similar, and some green round object which almost looks like a temporary marker for something, possibly used to activate this game's shrines? There are some very large lily pads here, which is nothing super important, but they could be large enough to get on top of. In the background here we see another shrine, but it's also not activated. An old destroyed construct can be seen here, which is pretty mysterious, but also pretty reminiscent of the Guardians from Breath of the Wild. Right after seeing Link use his new Ascend ability, we can see what looks like an arena with a pile of boxes in the middle. This is almost for sure the large Zonai box enemy that we saw in previous trailers and promotional images, but in a shut down state, since we are not yet fighting it. We can see another ranger construct in the cave that Link goes into, and it almost looks like it's sweeping, showing that they are likely there to clean and do the upkeep of the Sky Islands. We then watch Link use his new ascend through a cave, showing just how much distance can be covered through its use, which gives pretty good reasoning to believe that underground dungeons could be present within Tears of the Kingdom, since that would be a quick way out instead of simply having an elevator or teleporting out like in Breath of the Wild. Behind Link is some large orb on a pedestal surrounded by railings and minecarts in multiple directions. This could possibly be a puzzle. The soldier construct that eventually blows Link off the Sky Islands has a fused weapon equipped, showing that the enemies could and will have a plethora of weapon abilities to use against us. As Link falls, there are plenty of things to notice, including more ground art, more towers, and 2 holes filled with malice. I believe these could be cave entrances on the overworld, as there are a few spots, including Hyrule Castle and Death Mountain, that have malice spewing from them and could act as dungeons of some sort. There's also a good view of Death Mountain here, along with a plethora of Sky Islands too. We can also get a good view of Hyrule Castle, which looks very large and is making its presence known, similar to how it was in Breath of the Wild. There are also more holes of malice, ground art, and what looks like the Zonai labyrinths from before, but now in the sky. Which would kind of make sense since the mazes were Zonai in origin, so it's not much of a stretch to assume that they could have rose up from the ground of Hyrule too. They seem much larger now though, showing that they may not have been entirely uncovered, and could act as larger dungeons this time around. We can also see the exact moment when Link's minimap changes from the Sky Islands to the undiscovered overworld. To the right of Dueling Peaks, we can see the Zonai Forest and the Faron region from the first game covered in a fog, along with a few very small, close to the ground islands and a tower. 2 storm-covered islands can also be seen. As Link dives into the water, we can see that his ascend ability is unable to be used, similar to how it is once he starts swimming. However, when underwater, it is lit up as if it can be used. This could possibly be hinting that underwater exploration is possible, and that the ascend ability would allow Link to quickly reach the surface. The gameplay ends off with Link walking to shore where a few things can be seen, like another crafting area, a bokoblin camp, one of the new flying enemies holding a bokoblin with a bow, a stable, a flock of something, Hyrule Castle, another tower, and a good view of Hebra Mountain with seemingly no Sky Islands around it, which has led some people to theorize that some Sky Islands either move around or are not always there, and that you must progress in the game to have them appear. And there you have it. I know this is a long video, but I wanted to try and point out everything I could find. So if you saw something that I didn't, please let me know down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and you could even share this with someone who might want to see an in-depth look at all the gameplay. Until next time then, I'm Zelda, and I'll see you in the next video.